Every week I look back at my archive of blog posts on my website, and what I'm looking for is I'm looking to reshare something that I think still has value for people who are interacting and connecting with me today. And last time I talked about motivation. I always try and work at least sort of a week in advance so that I don't get caught napping. So last week, and something that I'm about to post on my YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to it if you would, please, that would be great. Last week I talked about motivation, and I'll put the link to that vlog below this video. What makes us sing? What drives us to want to sing? And for some of us, like myself, you know, it's been a lifelong wonderful journey of discovery, and I think I'm driven by that need to know if I can do it. I think they were the very words I used in my last vlog post. And anyway, I came across something this morning that I think is kind of linked to that, because many people are stopped from doing the singing thing because they're unsure about the sound of their voice. And part of my archive, in my archive, was a post that I wrote back in 2013 called "Do You Know Where the Root to Your Vocal Problems Lie?" Okay, and I obviously had read an interesting article written by a speech language therapist, Sue Jones, and she's talking about this question: do you ever encounter singers who have an issue with their voice that stems from the way that they talk? Well, immediately this morning I thought, yeah, I know a couple of singers who have issues with the way that they talk that then translates into how they sing. And this is a really interesting article that's very, very valuable, so I will be, you know, resharing this. The main problem, as she quite rightly says, is where there is excess tension in the throat as people speak. Sometimes it even comes down to something as simple as talking too loud, using too much volume, and that might be from, you know, as a result of several different extenuating circumstances, things beyond our control. Maybe our workplace is noisy. Maybe there's lots of chatter, or maybe people are working on the phone and need to be heard over and above the rest of the office noise. Or maybe, you know, you work in a pub, or if you're a teacher, for sure, that's one of the major problems. And I'm leading on from this article, and I'm not going to go right through it because she does make some really good points. How we speak, and therefore how we sing, any problems that we have to do with tension is often the result of things that we hold in our body. Incorrect, say, posture, which is a big thing in my 5 essentials. You know, that's number 1 in my 5 essential vocal exercises, because it's something that is so easily overlooked in the interests of singing first, when really you need to come back to it and readdress it. And of course, all those habits, what you can do to address the tension that you're feeling in your voice. And often it's a question of going back and looking at how you're speaking. I suppose in a slightly more obvious context for the singer is if you're in a concert or performance and it's your jolly job to introduce what you're going to sing. Say you're taking part in a competitive festival and you have to announce what you're going to sing, give a little kind of description of the song, especially if it's in a foreign language, because your audience will need to know what the song is about and what you're trying to convey. How you introduce that song is really important because you're setting up the audience's expectation. So it's really good to practice the art of using your voice in exactly the same way as you intend to use it to sing. Now, those of you who follow my vlogs will know that that's an opinion that's very close to my heart, that I believe you have one voice and you use the same voice for speaking or for singing, and you can change the tone and, you know, all that stuff. So it's really important. So I'm going to put a link to this blog post beneath this vlog post, so you can access it to have a read, but it's really important. But the other thing, and I think my laptop is actually, the battery is dying, so let's just quickly flip across. I'm really interested in something more as well than just thinking about how you are mechanically using your voice. I'm also very invested at the moment in thinking about how we nurture our voices, how we look after them. It's dear to my heart because, you know, I have to consider my own instrument and the fact that the clock is ticking. Age is approaching, older age is approaching, and it's well documented that voices change as we get older for all sorts of, obviously, medical reasons and physiological reasons. And so I suppose in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I've become much more careful about what I eat and what I drink. And of late, I've really got into how much I'm sleeping. It's a really beneficial thing to get a good night's sleep and set yourself up to sleep well, because so much repair happens when we sleep. So getting on to this idea of what you can do to nurture your voice, I was interested in speaking to Jessica. Jessica is my daughter. She is very interested in nutrition, and we were having a conversation in the car recently, and I just posed her a simple question. So, if you had a whole bunch of singers, you know, sitting in front of you and you were doing a workshop, what kind of foods would you say are best to advise singers to have? What kind of things? And her answer, surprisingly, was, well, tell me a little bit, first of all, about what is really essential for singers. And I said, well, obviously we want to maintain our voices as they always have been. You know, there's going to be a little bit of change because everybody changes. Everything about us as people changes as we grow older. But you can do a lot to preserve the actual sound of your voice, because how it works is all through a series of muscle movements, ligaments, a certain amount of elasticity is required. So you're trying always to keep the body in tip-top condition so that all those functions can be naturally enhanced for as long as possible. Okay, and typically I've been reading that when we get older, that one of the first things that changes is that we lose some of that elasticity. And what Jessica came up with was a kind of blueprint for the types of foods that we as singers should be targeting. What is interesting to me is if you've got somebody who has problems with their speaking voice, or how they speak is actually having a knock-on effect, or let's say the problems, the inherent problems, or the things that are really going wrong with the speech are causing then a problem in the voice. Doesn't it make sense to really, you know, take all the layers of that onion off until you get to the actual heart of the problem? And it's interesting, the kind of double-edged sword of this knotty problem of your voice, because in another sort of semi-related area, it also interests me greatly, is that when there is a total disregard for actually the quality of the singing voice because no one's paying attention to the way in which they are using their voice to speak, I often come across scenarios where singers don't even give a thought to actually how they're fueling that voice, how they're fueling and looking after and maintaining that voice. And of course, by that, I'm not just talking about the little vocal folds, I'm talking about the whole thing, us as a human being, because of course, the whole of our bodies is the instrument when we sing, the whole of it. So you have to start taking care. And it never ceases to amaze me that and I have been guilty of this in the past, perhaps when I was, you know, trying to do too much when the children were all small and, you know, running on empty a little bit, but still doing all the recitals and learning all the songs and putting myself under intense pressure and maybe not sleeping so well. I would still do all of that without addressing the problem. Well, now, of course, I'm much older and wiser, and it's interesting me more. I mean, fairly natural, right? When you're actually beginning to face some of those problems that you perhaps have been wanting to avoid. But let me just go back and link this up a little bit better for you. So you've got, on the one hand, singers who have a problem with their speaking voice and don't understand how that then correlates to the singing voice and what you've got to try to do to match them up. Okay, let's also consider how singers expect to be able to use their voices without on very little sleep, on the wrong food, and maybe drinking all the wrong stuff. Okay, now we are a live organism. We are human. We in order to be healthy, we've got to be thinking differently. But few of us really do. And I think it's worth thinking about. So let's cut to the chase. About a couple of weeks ago, not long after I was back from having run the course at Dartington Hall, Love Your Voice, and the title should give away that I was actually trying to get people to think about not just the singing thing, but behind that, what goes into it from the inside out. But maybe on a slightly more kind of level of soul searching rather than nutrition. I think that's Jessica trying to tell me something now. So we were having this conversation, and because I know that she is very knowledgeable, quite naturally, because she's very invested in her own health and the health of her little boy and the health of her baby that's coming and is about to be born at the beginning of June. So she's very invested. And I asked her a simple question. I said, okay, so what about people who, you know, like on the course, who were concerned about the overall health of their voice? And this is what she said to me. I'm going to have to read it because I can't get it quite right. And she just said, good nutrition from a varied, balanced diet is the cornerstone to good health. You cannot heal selectively, i.e. you can't expect to have a healthy voice when the rest of your body is suffering. The body wants to heal itself, and all you need to do is to give it what it requires, and that starts with what you put in your mouth. Well, that just seemed like obvious. It's obvious, right? So for singers, there are certain health issues which we need to be aware of in terms of maintaining the actual instrument, the little tiny instrument that's in there, the little vocal folds, but also ourselves, of course. And I've already mentioned something that I'm trying to really put right is my level of self-care. I'm working hard every day, but I also appreciate that I need to have downtime and be reinvesting in my actual self-health by getting enough rest. And that means winding down, not working till too late, all that stuff. You do know all the things like, not too much alcohol, caffeine is very drying for the vocal folds. And of course, what we need primarily as a singer is we need that magic stuff called mucus. Okay, and I think in a vlog that I did last September, maybe, as Christmas was approaching and there were lots of people doing extra rehearsing for Christmas concerts, I put together something to guide their health concerns, or just to say when you're rehearsing, don't drink too much water. If you keep on drinking water throughout the whole rehearsal, all you're doing is reducing the amount of natural mucus that we need to coat our little vocal folds to keep them in good shape while we're using them. So that's an extra little tip in there. But I asked her specifically, actually, and she put this little tips for a healthy singing voice, and I'll just read it again. And she says, in terms of which vitamins for the voice, I would recommend vitamin A and vitamin C. The vocal cords in particular will benefit from vitamin A because it helps to maintain the mucous membranes. I mean, too much mucus is not so good and too little is even worse. So vitamin A may also improve respiratory issues such as bronchitis or asthma. But also she's talking about foodstuffs. And here we've got sources of vitamin A: carrots, squash, pumpkin, sweet potato, dark green leafy vegetables such as spinach and broccoli, red peppers, tomatoes and yellow fruits such as apricots, mango and peaches are the most concentrated food sources of beta carotene, which is what we need. Okay, vitamin C is helpful in maintaining the connective tissues. Now this is something I think this sold me. Maintaining connective tissues within the body, and in particular helps to maintain the body's collagen production. Now, when we think of collagen, what do we think of? We think of beauty tips and things like that. But actually, as we age, as the voice changes, we rely on a good supply of natural collagen to keep that flexibility in how we use the voice itself and its little mechanism. Food sources, if you're interested, of vitamin C, obviously we know citrus fruits, strawberries, guava, berries, currants, fruit juice, potatoes and nuts. But vegetables such as cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, spinach, kale and green peppers are rich sources, but large amounts of the vitamin are lost during food storage, preparation and cooking. So, that provides us with a lot of information to enable us to make decisions about what we eat, and also how we cook it. So the less cooking, the better. Raw is great, but also to vary your diet to include as much of this as possible. It very much interests me that we can take control of what is happening to our bodies as we get older, and that means we can take better control of how we use our voices, not only as we are aging, but actually their use in everyday life. And that to me is of utmost importance. Okay, so I think that'll be it for today, and I'll catch up again with you next week. Don't forget to check in the details below. You can scroll down and I'll put some links in the notes, so you can look at some blog posts that will be of interest. But also do subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying what I'm delivering, and also you can come and find me on Facebook. I have a business page, Little Soprano, and I also have a free closed group called Company of Singers, and all those links are in the details below the video. So I hope that you will keep coming back, and I'll keep coming forward with more useful information and vlogs. Okay, that's it for today. Bye for now.